Hello, Lightning Stalker here again with some tips for welding. I have here some tools that you're going to need that no welder should be without. If no matter what kind of welding you're going to be doing, that are on my welding table here. The welding table itself is actually a tool that you're going to need. This is my small welding cutting table that I made from an old patio table and some mesh. First of all, we have your wire brushes. This one is steel brush. This one is stainless steel, and you can see I've written on there aluminum only, because you don't want to use your aluminum brush to brush anything else because you'll get contamination. Here's a pair of pliers for pulling on stuck MIG wire. You can get pliers with a cutter in them too, but I'm cheap. I just use these, and then I have a sheet metal shears here that I snip the wire off with. I got a good price on this. It was free. Here we have my this is for storing stick electrodes. It's got a rubber gasket here, and inside I've got some of my electrodes. It's got 4 different chambers for different sizes. And you want to probably put some silica gel packets down in there just to keep the moisture out of your welding rods. I've found out though that it does not work for the 7018. A guy told me once that you can store 7018 just as the same as you can store any other welding rod. Well, that's not true, because if you do that, you get pinholes. The 7018 will absorb moisture like crazy. I don't have one, but what you want to get if you're really serious about welding, if you've got a small shop and you're using 7018, you want to get what they call an oven to keep your 7018 nice and hot and free of moisture. But if you've got a welding shop already, you probably know that already. Also, we have a chipping hammer. That's for chipping the slag off of MIG flux core wire welds or stick welds. Some welders will come with one. The Lincoln AC220 used to come with one. It comes with a welding mask too, but you want to probably get a auto darkening mask. This is an angle grinder. This was pretty cheap, about 30 bucks. It's a 5-inch. You can get 4-inch. You probably want to get a 4-inch because that's the most common size. And I have a cutoff disc on here. It's a thin abrasive disc for cutting metal, and it zips through it pretty fast. And here is the grinding wheel for grinding out welds or grinding in bevels if you're doing thick metal. But if you're going to be beveling, you really want to get a plasma cutter, because well, you probably want to get a plasma cutter anyway, because it's a lot easier than a cutting torch, and it's cheaper to use. You don't have to buy expensive cylinders of acetylene and oxygen. It just works off your regular shop air, which brings me to your air compressor, which is over there in that corner. You can't really see it. Let me get a little better angle here. You can sort of see the tank. It's that gray thing back there, and the motor is down there behind the shielding gas tank. You can sort of see it there. That's sort of a homebrew unit from an old LP gas tank. Kind of dangerous. I don't recommend it unless you really think you know what you're doing. And there's oil in those, so but just have an air compressor. You're gonna need it to clean off your if you got a MIG welder, to clean out your liner and your cable liner and your gun liner, and your to blow out dust from out of there. And if you got a plasma cutter, you need the shop air to run your plasma cutter. Hose reel, you don't have to have one, but it makes unrolling the hose a lot easier. Then next we have a chop saw, and this is another tool like the angle grinder. You'll wonder what you did without it for so long. Basically what it is it's got an abrasive blade, sort of like a really thin grinding wheel or cutoff disc, except it's huge compared to most cutoff discs, and it sort of just grinds a really thin cut through your metal, and works a lot like a table saw, or a miter saw, I mean. And you can cut all kinds of metal with those too. It's good for making square cuts on steel, where you need a nice straight edge, straighter than what you can get with the handheld cutter, like a plasma cutter or a cutting torch. And the edge is real clean. You can weld on it right away. One thing I recommend though, especially if you have a cheaper one, is what I do, especially on the angle. I take a block of wood and I put it in here like this. So that it clamps the metal up against the guide, where it doesn't lean it over. Because if you just clamp it like this, especially if it's angle iron, it will bend your back at your guide, and then you won't get as accurate of a cut.